Hi, and welcome to Breaking Free. My name's Kim Wagner, and I'm your host today. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Tom Cronin. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along.
No problem at all. So I'll just let the viewers know a little bit about you, Tom, for those that don't know you. Tom spent 26 years in finance markets as one of Sydney's leading bond and swap brokers. He discovered meditation in the early stages of his career when the anxiety and chaos he was experiencing had hit a crisis point, and it completely transformed his world, both personally and professionally. Tom is the founder of the Stillness Project, which is a global movement to inspire 1 billion people to sit in stillness daily. He has also just released a book at the beginning of July, and he's going to be releasing a film, I believe, later on in the year called The Portal. It's all very exciting, Tom. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's plenty going on. Back-to-back meetings since very early this morning.
I can imagine. So, Tom, would you mind telling us a little bit about your journey from the corporate world, I guess, to where you are now?
Yeah, I was in corporate for 26 years, and I started out in 1987 when I was a trainee broker, basically just come back from backpacking around the world, taking a gap year from school before university. And, I really was enamored by the fast-paced moving markets. It was really exciting. It was, late 80s, early 90s, and the markets were on fire, and there was a lot of money moving around the world. And, it was kind of a bit like now. Debt was a big thing back then, and it is now. So it was a really fascinating time to be in the markets. But I started to experience some really extreme stresses along the way. And, a big part of that industry was drinking and drugs. And I got really caught up in that as well. So my nervous system really did struggle over time with the immense load that I was putting it on. Particularly for me, a lot of the other brokers, on the weekends would go and play golf and, relax and get lots of sleep. But I kind of got really swept up into this rave culture in the late 80s, early 90s. And so the weekends when I was supposed to be resting from very intense week of work, I was in warehouse parties and recovery parties and, really not getting any rest at all. So eventually my nervous system really struggled with that. And I had a massive blowout at the age of 29 after 10 years of living a very fast-paced life. And that really was a turning point for me, immense anxiety and depression and really sort of some suicidal thoughts at that time, where just really questioning life. I was very unhappy with where I was and where I was going and who I'd become. And I felt a very strong disconnect to, I guess, looking back in hindsight, my truth. So I found meditation at that point in time. Now, I did continue on in the industry for a long time, another 16 more years, to be honest with you. But meditation became a really big part of that lifestyle. And I changed the way I lived my life a lot, through meditation. It really helped me feel a lot better about who I was, and like the addictions went away, the anxiety and depression went away. And I was very successful in that career. But over time, I just felt this strong sense of passion and purpose to want to inspire other people to learn to meditate. And it just became such a strong, compelling, overwhelming sort of experience in me that I had to find a way to make that shift out of finance and walk away from a very substantial, career and income. But that's when I started the Stillness Project in 2012, and when I started the journey of this film as well. And that's all part of a global movement to really just put meditation at the forefront of our minds and start to think about why we should be making this part of our day. So that was really the shift.
Yeah, it's a big thing because, as you know, my background is finance as well.
Yeah.
And look, it's very exciting and fast-paced, but it's also very stressful, can be very competitive. It's not really a lot of being able to focus on yourself and how you're feeling. You just have to do and you have to achieve. And I'd agree, I've probably started in banking when you started in your career as well. And it was very exciting. And there was a lot of stuff going on. Meditation, what was that? None of this stuff, none of the mindfulness, none of the stopping and looking inside to see where we are. That just didn't happen. And for myself, about the same as you, about 10 years in, I started discovering there's so much more. On your downtime, you shouldn't be going to raves, drinking, partying. Yeah. You should actually be connecting with yourself. So it's a really big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, and it was really the catalyst for change for me in my life.
And I think that given that you had that background of the corporate world and exactly how damaging it can be, you're the perfect person to present it to the rest of the world, because you've been there and you've experienced that anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, they're prevalent. They're just everywhere, and I think that there's a few certain things that we can do that can help, and meditation for me is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. So how did it help initially when you first started it? How did you find that it helped you, as in your day-to-day life? What was the first thing that you noticed that you probably thought, wow, this is something that's worth continuing or pursuing?
Yeah, I think it's really important that I talk about this because it's not really talked that much about in meditation circles. The first week was really turbulent, and this is the thing that I always let my students know. The technique that I learn and the technique that I teach is a very deep and powerful meditation practice. So that first week was quite challenging. A lot of stresses were being released out of my body. I was only teaching a woman the other day, and in the first or second session, she started crying. And I said, this is the beauty of the technique, is that through the practice of getting your body into deep rest, getting your body out of the sympathetic nervous system state and into parasympathetic nervous system, it's going to start to reorganize itself and heal itself. And that healing process can actually not necessarily be what you think it will be. So my first week, I actually was absolutely exhausted.
Yes.
I just literally had turned off the adrenaline and cortisol pump in my body as my body quickly moved out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic. And to feel what life was like without that cortisol pumping through my veins was like I just suddenly hit a wall. I've been struggling with insomnia for a long, long time. And here I was just literally falling asleep everywhere. It was just a completely new phenomenon that I really relished and enjoyed. And it obviously came with a price that I just felt really, really tired.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning, not concerning, but it's a surprise at first, isn't it? Because you're so used to going so fast that when you stop and you allow your body to stop, it just falls in a heap.
Yeah. And that's what I, let people know, that you're going to you might potentially feel really, really tired. So listen to your body. And so for me, the big thing was just being able to fall asleep. That was massive. And then just noticing, it's not so much what I did start to notice as far as new things. It was recognizing there were things that I wasn't experiencing. Wow, I'm not experiencing this reactiveness and this fear, and I'm not experiencing this sense of dread. All of that started to just melt away. So that was some of the very significant things that I noticed quite early on in the first few weeks. Very tangible.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we know that when you sleep, that's when you're resting and repairing, and that's part of the parasympathetic nervous system as well. So, that's a huge thing. So the fact that you are now able to sleep or work quite soon after starting meditation is huge, and it is tangible, like you said. Because we just run all day. There's nothing else that we do. We just run, and our sympathetic nervous system just runs on overdrive. And I think we forget what it's like to not be that way, because we always feel the urgency to do more. I can do more. But we actually need to do less. Yeah,
we tend to normalize to these states and not realize that the state we're in is very imbalanced. And it's not until we experience an alternative to that we notice, wow, I didn't realize how stressed I was.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
The power of meditation.
Can you tell us a little bit about the type of meditation that you practice? Because you said it's a very deep meditation. There are a lot out there, so if you could just let us know.
Yeah, I put meditation into 4 categories. We've got concentration, which is focusing on one thing and trying to get the mind to do something it doesn't necessarily want to do. The mind really is looking for charming things and charming ideas. So concentration meditation, which is more of a sort of Buddhist practice, focusing on the breath, is beautiful, but very, very difficult for the mind to enjoy. And if we don't enjoy it, we don't generally want to do it. Contemplation meditations, which is like visualization, gratitude, intention setting, focusing on the chakras. That engages a lot of thinking. So the mind is still proactive and it's still active. We've got chanting meditations, which is chanting out loud in a kirtan setting, which is with a group of people. Sometimes we do it in yoga. The one I do and recommend for my students is transcending style meditation. That's where we use what's called a bij mantra. A mantra is something that we use to lure the mind in a different direction that it naturally tends to go. And that's what these mantras do. The mind is naturally going externally, to your phone, to Facebook, to Instagram, to your work, to your emails, to your family, to your finances. That's all external. And that's where the mind will go from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. What the mantra does in these transcending meditations, it takes the mind in the opposite direction internally. into silence and away from forms and phenomenon. And what happens is that the mind goes into a state called transcending, which is that it's gone beyond thought. It's transcended the thinking process. It's transcended the physical form that you contained within. And I was just teaching students the other day, and they said, it felt like I was outside my body. And I'm like, yeah, you're experiencing yourself beyond the limitation of the physical form. You're experiencing consciousness itself. So to transcend thought and transcend form is a very powerful experience that takes the mind into a very, very deep state of rest, which allows a very deep healing process, first and foremost, in the physiology. So that's that was where it was really powerful for me, that all those anomalies that I had simply melted away because the body's healing capacity, given the appropriate state of deep, profound rest that was coming through my meditation experience.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, very powerful.
So when in 2012 you started the Stillness Project. Yes. What is that?
Yeah, so the Stillness Project is a movement to inspire 1 billion people to meditate daily. And we really wanted to make it a big, big movement. You know, I was talking to my team about this when we were coming up with the tagline and the vision statement and the intention behind it all. And I was like, you know, I'd love to see 1 million people meditating on a daily basis. They're like, you'll reach that too quickly. You need to make it 1 billion. And I'm like, 1 million's a lot of people. And they're like, yeah, but you know, you could reach that goal very quickly, and then where would you be left? So we moved it to 1 billion. And within 4 years of setting up the Stillness Project, you know, we've been exposed and in front of, you know, literally 10, 15 million people through, you know, people like Mind Valley and Mind Movies and number of interviews and a lot of talks, a lot of corporate speaking, a lot of online programs. But now with the film coming out and the book out, you know, it's looking like, you know, we'd love to keep that momentum going and keep going, you know, for many more years to come. And hopefully we can get that less of a sort of measurable goal, but sort of an incentive behind hopefully getting at least 1 billion people to be embracing meditation on a daily basis.
That's fantastic. And I find that with meditation, it's like lots of other healing modalities. There's definitely a ripple effect. So once your consciousness has changed, it affects the people directly around you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, and then, you know, it can just ripple across the world. And someone says, well, why are you so calm when you're going through such stress or such drama in your life? Well, it's down to meditation a lot of the time, you know, and mindfulness and just becoming yourself and going inwards, like you said. Yeah,
I love to refer to in a lot of my talks the scene from When Harry Met Sally, and when Meg Ryan has the fake orgasm in the cafe and those two old ladies say, I want what she's having. And that's because she just embodied something that just looks so good. And that's what we as meditators, we don't have to go around preaching it and proselytizing it. We just literally have to live and breathe it. And that's enough to inspire people. So a lot of my students come through direct referral from people that have meditated using the technique and just said literally, you know, to other people, wow, this is phenomenal. You know, it's talk to Tom and you can learn from him. So.
And like you said, that it's very tangible. So you'll see someone who you know that's been quite highly strung, quite stressed, very reactive. And imagine if you see them a week later and they're the polar opposite, then there's no way you can't see that it's beneficial. And I think that's the thing. It seems woo-woo. It seems a bit out there. Well, it used to in the 90s. But now pretty much everyone that I know that's successful meditates to a certain degree in one way or another. Yeah. And I think it's important to take that time in the morning. I do mine in the morning. I find that sets me up for the day. Yep. Yeah. Do you find with your students and with your practice, do you find that there is a better time of the day for yourself? What would you prefer for meditation? Yeah,
I mean, I try to do 2 a day. I'm very busy these days. I've been meditating for 25 years. So if I wouldn't say this to my students, so hopefully none of them are listening, but every now and then, you know, I do miss sections, which is fine because, you know, you become so stabilized in that state anyway. But I do recommend 2 meditations a day. And when I learned, I was just so, I wouldn't say fanatical, very disciplined about the practice because I was noticing such significant results from it. So for me, once I wake up in the morning, I brush teeth, go to the toilet, you know, have your shower, and I meditate. You know, that was the first thing that I would be doing after personal hygiene and stuff, because it was just setting up the foundation. And the analogy I like to use is that the tree puts its roots down first before it starts to sprout up through the ground, because it needs to get nourishment through the soil and the moisture in the soil and the nutrients in the soil to enable the growth upwards. But also it enables the tree to have a very solid and sound root base to hold it against the elements that are going to buffer and push against that tree. And that's what life is like. And you see those trees that haven't got a strong root base in storms have blown over, and you'll see that their root base is like there's nothing, right? And that's because there's nothing holding them stable in challenging times. And as humans, we also need to plant our awareness and our experience below the surface of life and stabilize that deeper connection. And then in that sense of knowingness, when we get challenged and life throws uncertainty and things that we weren't planning at us, we've got greater capability to manage our way through that. So the first one in the morning is really important. But what I also find is that as the day progresses, and more so these days because we're taking on more and more demands, to have one in the afternoon, anytime between sort of 2 and 7 o'clock is an ideal time. Around that 3 or 4 is quite good when we're getting that circadian dip in the day and people are getting double shot macchiatos and cans of V and Tim Tams trying to get their way through the day. If you can get an afternoon meditation in, that's really, really powerful. And a lot of the companies that I've been working with and helping them structure a meditation session in that afternoon has really helped those companies get another boost up for their staff, enable them to continue on through the day. And if you can't get one in the afternoon around that time, there's a really nice sort of change of window in the day between sort of 5 and 7 where people are knocking off work and it's pre-dinner. I think that's a really nice time. You get home and instead of turning on the news at 6 o'clock and watching tragic events, why not just close your eyes for 20 minutes on the sofa with a dim light or a candle and just really recalibrate for the day and clear yourself of the day and just reboot your system so that for that evening session, you've got this nice, clear, elevated state again, and you're not carrying through all that heaviness of the work and the toxicity of your day, and you get back into home and next thing you're dumping all that on your wife or your children. I used to meditate in the car in my garage before I walked in the front door of the house, and that allowed me to clear all that stress. And I'd go bouncing into the house, full of energy and lightness, and they don't have to wear that toxicity.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. I wouldn't have thought of doing that. But you're right. We've not had the news in our house since I've been an adult. I think it's not a good thing to watch. It's very sensationalized and negative. So I think that definitely meditating would be a much better alternative for sure. So tell me a little bit about your book and then about the film that's coming out in, I believe you might have said October.
Yeah, it's coming out in Australia in October. It looks like probably the US in September and New Zealand in November. And then we'll be doing, I think Europe is in Germany. It's April next year, Switzerland, Austria and Germany next year. And then there'll be plenty of other countries around the world. I guess I'll probably start with the film first because the film was the original intention to make a movie about the power of meditation through a personal story. And then what we did was we filmed these amazing, we searched far and wide. We had an amazing research team that interviewed and researched 300 individual stories that had all gone through crisis and used meditation to move through that crisis. So we wanted to show the power of meditation, not just for a Buddhist monk, but for someone that's had a very difficult experience in life, because that's where it becomes a lot more powerful. So out of those 300 stories, we kept whittling them down until we found the 6 that we were really looking for. And they're beautiful global stories that are all very diverse backgrounds, diverse crises. And they all had one thing in common. They used meditation to move through that crisis. So that's the essence of the film, was those beautiful stories that showcase the power through experience of meditation. And then we have 3 futurists and philosophers that really look at the macro picture of life, of humanity as a whole, why we're here, where we are, how we got here, and where we can possibly go. And it's quite a concerning picture when you talk to futurists about where things could potentially go for humanity, and that could go as far as self-termination of an entire species.
For sure.
Which is a very high likelihood. We're at that sort of incredible inflection point for humanity right now where what we do here really is going to determine the difference between survival or not survival.
Yeah, I agree. And we're very disconnected at the moment. Humans are very disconnected.
Yeah, and we've been traveling along this pathway for a long time, and evolution insists that things must evolve or things must break down. And we're at this sort of point where we've been lacking in creativity and adaptability collectively as a species. And if we don't make those changes soon, then evolution will supersede the human species and override it. So look, I think we've got incredible creative capacity. I can see some incredible change happening on the planet. And the book really does portray, and the film, that, you know, a possibility that's really beautiful. And in Vedic philosophy, we talk about an enlightened era of time, Satyuga, an era of an awakened embracing of wisdom. And that's a very high likelihood as well. And what that looks like on the planet is quite beautiful and remarkable. And the mere fact alone that we can talk about this right now on this podcast means that we're moving in that direction, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the consciousness across the globe is starting to rise. And like we were talking about the ripple effect before, and I think that it is slowly happening. Is it happening fast enough? I don't know. I'd like to think it is, but possibly not. So I think films and books like what you've got, what you're about to release, is certainly going to help with that. And I will include a link to the preview to the film. It's very, very inspiring, and I can't wait for it to come out. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that there's some good release dates across Australia. Yeah.
And the beauty is, if it's not showing in a local cinema near you, then we have a wonderful company called FanForce that you'll be able to, and this all will be on our website, that people will be able to host their screening for their local community. And we'll organise that through the local cinema, and we'll coordinate with you how to put that event on for your community. And you'll be able to watch that in a cinema in the smallest towns. We've got towns all around the world that people are starting to register, where they can put that screening on for their community. Okay. And the beauty of the film is that we really wanted to push the boundaries of filmmaking. It's quite a different film. It is very unique, and it's not your average documentary that tells you a lot of information. There's a meditation in the film, so it's powerful for communal experiences in cinema, because they'll all meditate together in this beautiful dark room, which is really awesome. And there's binaural beats in there, and it'll make people laugh and cry and all sorts of emotions. So
all the good stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
So on your website, I know that I'm in very far north Queensland, so quite away from you. I can't make it to any of your one-on-one face-to-face classes, but I see you've got many, many ways that we can connect and learn, including a 21-day meditation course, which looks amazing. So you have so many offerings on your website, which I imagine is being used across the world.
Yeah. The technique that I learned meditation with was pre-internet. It's fascinating to remember that I learned meditation in 1996, and there was no sign, no glimmer, no whisper of an internet. And so it was only ever taught in person. And that's, I found that teacher through the Yellow Pages phone book, and I called them up on a landline and organized to learn to meditate with that person. But then when the internet came, I had people reaching out to me in Finland and Venezuela and housing estates of Sheffield, England, asking me for guidance and support. And I had to adapt with the times and find a way for me to not only give them access to this meditation technique, but give them access to ongoing support and coaching. So we've got, coaching programs for leaders, coaching programs for people who just want to improve their meditation technique. We've got online meditation programs. And really it was about just knowing that there are people somewhere in the world that need support. And it's up to me as a leader to be able to, and this is what I coach in our Zen Academy, it's up to us as leaders to be the ones that create the facility or the vehicle or the vessel for them to be able to contact us. So you created this vessel of a podcast, which enables people to access, what we're talking about anywhere in the world. It wasn't up to someone else to create that. It was up to you to create that, and you created that. So now you've created a vessel or a container to deliver something. And that's a beautiful opportunity for all of us to know that we can do that.
Yeah, and it's important to know that there's so much information. The one thing about technology is that we're all connected even closer, I guess. And there's no one in the world almost that doesn't have access to all the beautiful offerings that are there.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It has a polarity about it, technology. It's leading us to be more disconnected. I see people in restaurants just on their phones rather than talking, but then it allows us to connect with people that we wouldn't normally be able to connect with, like you and I are connecting
right now. Yeah, exactly. Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate that, and I cannot wait to see your film. And I'll put all the details, as I said, below when I put the video up. And thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's been wonderful to be here today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.